Very good morning. Uh, my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Fourth Wave Foundation, especially Diana, Ravi, Ranjana, and the entire team, and also Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. I'm extremely honored to be here today. Thank you. I'm extremely honored to be here today. And since yesterday, it's been a very empowering, inspiring time to hear everyone. My big apologies, as Radhika said, like I can't understand or speak Kannada, but I'm going to try and keep my pace moderate if there are any translators who can help in terms of assistance. For those of my friends who are not able to see me, I'd just like to describe myself. I'm a woman in my late 40s, draped a sari today, wearing a very distinctive bindi and a rectangular glass frame. I'm standing behind a podium, and right behind me is is my presentation, and you all can see there are smiles of children. Just to set the context, I'm going to talk and share my point of view around enhancing inclusive learning spaces. Since yesterday, I've been hearing a lot of people who've been in this space for a very, very long time. And as I had said that, my journey in the development sector began just about 14 years, but that was in the social impact space, but for a for-profit organization. It's only the not-for-profit organization I transitioned about 4 years back, and I was working for an organization which was working with business owners and helping them grow, and it was more to do with livelihood. So my journey into the space of disability is very, very recent. So I'm going to say upfront, in case I do make some mistakes, because, you're all our experts sitting here, please pardon me, because I'm learning, and I'm learning every day. Every event, every person that I meet, I'm constantly learning. On the screen that you see, around the globe, there are 240 million children with disabilities. And these 24 smiles, each of them represent 10 million each. The reason I wanted to share this picture is that across the globe, all children with disabilities have a similar issue. It's not very India-specific. Across the globe, all children with disabilities need more support. And what is important is that we all are, of course, the problem is complex, very granular. A lot of, the panelists were talking about it, which is true. But I think we all are making that movement. And for us, it's a movement to at least begin. And the journey has begun. And across the globe, children are not learning. Yeah, perils of technology, while we all are talking and connected and everything, these are all some of the perils of technology. Across the globe, as I said, while there are so much happening, there are still children not learning. And when I say when children are not learning, it just doesn't mean about being enrollment. Arman said yesterday that children cannot be treated as an enrollment number, right? Enrollment is just a data point for us to understand that, given the numbers and the data that we're talking of, are these children really getting access to quality and inclusive education, right? Attendance does not mean children are, enrollment doesn't mean attendance. Attendance doesn't mean learning, right? So we need to make sure that children are learning. This is an old picture, and this is a picture of 1829. I work with Perkins School for the Blind, and the school was the first school in the United States which started thinking at that point in time that every child can learn. And that was a time in 1829 where kindergarten, this is These are children in the classroom with the kindergarten teacher. So that's the time Perkins really began to think that all children can learn anywhere. I always use this one line because this is our tagline, and I felt so wonderful when I heard Fourth Wave Foundation's line, which was the same: all children belong in school. All children need to be in school, right? And we need to believe that every child can learn. And when I say every child, means every child. It's not about disability, not disability. It's every child can learn anywhere. Can anyone recognize this picture? It's a legacy picture. Yeah. And that the next to her, Helen Keller, that little girl is Helen Keller. Exactly. Helen Keller was a student of Perkins School for the Blind, and Anne Sullivan was her teacher at Perkins School for the Blind. And I think everyone sitting here today, I feel extremely wonderful, optimistic, because all of us desire that all the Helen Kellers, every Helen Keller needs to have an Anne Sullivan in their lives. And that's what we are looking at. Now, these are, one of the things in the, yesterday when we were talking, which came across was teachers are very, very important because they play a huge pivotal role in the life of a child. And that teacher need not be just an educator. The teacher can be the mother, the teacher can be the grandmother, anyone who is engaging with the child to make the child's life meaningful, joyful, and a purposeful engagement is a teacher. The idea is that when I show this picture, these are pictures of children with their teachers, who could be their parents, across the globe. So right from Croatia to Armenia to Mexico to Chile to India, we are all across. So Perkins School for the Blind initially started with working with children who were blind, but it went on to understand that it just cannot be only children with visual impairment. So it actually focused a lot on children with severe disabilities because those are the children who are most ignored, excluded, and they're out of learning completely. And therefore, the whole focus was that how do we build an environment, how do we build a system which will help a child to learn meaningfully both at home, in school, or whatever the child is engaging with. These are some of the children. The second picture that you see is Julie. The reason I called out, her picture is here because just the way, I was looking at all the stories, the human stories in the library. These are our human stories across the globe. And there is a story in all of them. And why Julie? Because Julie was a child who was 6 years of age, a wheelchair-bound person. She has cerebral palsy and she has low vision, and she was never in school. She had never seen a school. So her most interaction was with her mother. And to get Julie, after our engagement with them, and when we say we work with partners. So, we know that we can't do it alone. Because if you do something, I'm always excited to share Helen Keller's quote, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so more." And these are all our partners who have partnered with us, and Julie was in school. Julie being in school was a game changer. Not just for Julie and her family, but also for all the other children, for them who had not experienced, somebody who was a wheelchair-bound person and what kind of accommodations that they needed to make to include the child. And Julie has been in school ever since. This is a story of UP. At Perkins, we do a lot of community-based programs in Uttar Pradesh with large eye hospitals. And that was our initial journey for the 5 years where we focused building on the community. Given everyone was talking, what we did was that keeping the child at the center. And I think that's a theory of change even for Fourth Wave Foundation, right? The child being at the center of everything. So whatever that you do has to be around the child, right? And this is a three-pointed, this is a triangle because the most important elements are the community and the families, and then going into the school. Because at the end of the day, once the child is in the community intervention center, the family is engaged, the child needs to be in mainstream school. And that is what is our model program approach, and that is happening globally. It's just not in India. And I wanted to constantly bring back this concept that it is a global approach, nuanced and contextualized to every country, every geography within a country. So we're running this same model program approach in Mumbai, working with Brihan Mumbai, 18 urban resource centers, working and building the capacities and a school transformation program, but the framework is nuanced, the approach is nuanced, the guiding principle remains the same. Could we just go to the next slide? So basically, I want to just touch upon 5 big points. One is in terms of, when we are talking of access to quality learning, right? So the first piece is that all children belong in school. We need to get them to school, right? It's important, and especially because in the early childhood days, because by the time the child is 11, the child has lost a lot of time. And these days, the buzzword is, while pardon me for saying this, the buzzword is FLN, Foundational Literacy and Numeracy, and everybody's talking about it. Nipun Bharat Mission, yes, it's good, but how many children within that Nipun Bharat or FLN constitute children with disabilities? Are we really accounting for them? Are we really ensuring when we say all children have reached, foundational literacy and numeracy, are we really talking about children with disabilities? And the reason I question this is because we've seen the ASA report. A grade 3 child cannot read his or her name, which is, or a grade 2 text. So that is the story of, the education system. So yes, the journey is arduous, it's long, it's complex, it's very granular, but I think what is important is to make those right steps, to take those right steps, work with partners, and therefore making sure that accessible learning is available for all children. So all children belong in school. The second is learning starts very early. I think we need to move away from the fact that learning is only academic. Learning has to be holistic. It has to be comprehensive. The day the child, there is a toddler at home, the first time the child touches anything, or even looks at something, there is learning. Learning is in every moment of a child, while the child is in school. So therefore, learning needs to start very early. And then in school setup, it's more structured because then you are, purposing the child to manage certain things. And it's not necessarily textual learning or subject learning, but really learning about a variety of things which helps the child really learn those life skills. The third, which is very important, and I think it came across since yesterday and it's been on. Teachers want to teach and they also want to learn. We'd been talking about it that if you look at the B.Ed curriculum, it's archaic. It hasn't changed in years. And we are only dependent on special educators to work with children. I am more than 100% sure that any child, any classroom that you enter, and if you do an assessment, you will have children with disabilities. Do our teachers, do they have an understanding? Do they have tools or frameworks or anything which really helps them identify children, and therefore, can they really work with children? Or pedagogically, it's not an additional task, but within the classroom setup, how do you do that? So I'm of a firm believer, teachers want to teach and they also want to learn. And it's very important to put that focus on the teachers because they become a big conduit between the family and the child. Fourth, parents are the most powerful instrument. At the end of the day, they are the biggest anchor and to support a child with disability. When we started work in UP, we went to, of course, I'm not going to go into the data part of it. And when we went into a school, there were no children with disability. They said, no children. There aren't any children with disability. And it's obviously, it's a you wonder, really? There are no children with disabilities? It's only because they don't know. And humans, when we don't know, we just have a hard time doing something what we don't know. It's about really putting that, supporting them, and engaging them, and therefore continuously building that capacity, and not those checklist trainings that happen through the year where, we went to a Rajasthan government school and they said, oh, when we do these trainings, they are nice because I have a samosa party that day. So I'm out of school and I don't know because I have to attend, and then I'll get chai and samosa. So how do you make training and capacity building so rich that teachers want to come there and then they want to take back those learnings into the classroom to make sure that every child is getting that access to quality education, as we say. And of course, the last is access is physical as well as digital. Radhika, you mentioned about COVID, and I think COVID was a big turnaround for all of us, right? We thought we just couldn't connect, and we realized we just could connect with everyone. Parents, they have smartphones, they may not be educated, but one of the panelists said that they send out voice notes. So when during COVID, we reached out to all our children and the teachers using the smartphone. And today what's important is that digitally the world is very, very close. You just have to ensure and understand that digital transformation is not about some big tool or technology. My person who irons clothes for me, he sends me a note that, madam, your money is 95 rupees. He sends me a voice note, and that's digital transformation for a presswala, right? And I think that's what we need to know, that access in terms of physical infrastructure that we all spoke of, I'm not going to spend time, but also to make sure that how do you keep connecting with the parents beyond the classrooms is important. And teachers can actually do that fair. So we are working with Pratham in Mumbai, and they have formed a huge community of WhatsApp group with parents of children with disabilities. So that's a great medium for us. So the learning actually goes beyond classrooms. Our model program is basically a school transformation where we spend about a year with the school, taking them through a framework, and this framework has been designed over a period of 15, 20 years, tested globally, and we nuance it to every context. They actually help identify which are the areas. There are 7 domains, and we actually cut across through 100 indicators. And it's a very scientific tool, and basis that each school has a very different action plan to be prepared. So each school is unique, so each school has a very different way of building the capacity, so where we work with the teachers of the government school. When we are looking at a Perkins model, the whole idea is we don't want to build schools, we don't want to build infrastructure, we want to work with existing systems, existing partners who are already working in schools to make sure there are 3 things. We are looking at something which is replicable, can be nuanced and contextualized, something which is scalable so everyone can actually, we can reach larger number of children. And third is in terms of sustainability, because that becomes a huge piece in terms of how do you make a program sustainable. Even if I am not there or we are not there, the school continues to do their work. With this, I'll just end with one little point. One of the things that I feel is the most important element, of course we want to enhance accessible learning. One of the things which is most important is, can we create collaboratives for inclusion? We have collaboratives for health, for gender, for climate, but if we have collaborators, because the beautiful work Fourth Wave is doing, and there are many organizations who are doing in their own pockets. So is there a way in which we can come together as a collective and really take it in terms of driving inclusion, driving accessible learning for all children? Thank you so much.